talk about some NHL real quickly. There's not a lot of NHL news since episode 55, but Brett, it looks like you may not go 2 for 2 with your hub cities. You were thinking Vegas and Toronto, but NHL seems like they might be shifting to doing 2 Canadian cities.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree with the NHL here. If
I do too.
everyone was wearing a mask here, maybe we'd be able to host hockey in Vegas. But if we're not flying everyone down to Vegas already, why send them there when we can send them to a country that seems to be a little more in control with their COVID problems? So I think the NHL is making a smart move here, and to be honest, I don't think either of us were like, yeah, COVID's going to spike in July and they're going to have to move their hub cities again.
This is why we can't have nice things, America. See, Canada gets both hub cities now. Brett has to be wrong. All because Nevada's seen some spikes and they're not feeling as confident about Vegas. Vegas was what they most wanted to do because they were confident being able to create a bubble around T-Mobile Arena with the hotels there. Instead, it's looking like it might be Edmonton and Toronto. I'll be interested to see if those are the final two. I mean, they were also talking about Vancouver as well.
Well,
I
Vancouver
believe
had some issues.
Vancouver's had some issues, so Edmonton, Toronto seem most likely, but they still haven't nailed them down yet. So we will see about that. Brett, I'm sorry that your Vegas was wrong. I was pulling for you to go 2 for 2 after I was going to go 0 for 2.
Well, what's funny is I was right, and the NHL would still like me to be right, but they just you can't do it.
It's the responsible
there are
thing to do.
safer places to put it. Just put it there and play hockey.
For perspective of how the coronavirus is affecting the NHL right now, of the more than 250 players that have participated in voluntary workouts so far, they've all been tested. 15 have tested positive. It's a 6% positive rate, and there has been around 1,450 tests that have been completed since June 8th for these around 250 players. So 6%, we were talking about positive rates last week. MLS had a really low one, about 2.7. It seems like that number might be a little bit different now with FC Dallas, like you and I were talking about, Brett. But we'll see. The NHL still has to get their formal training camp under their feet. July 1st was the earliest start date they were going to be allowed to do that, and they haven't kicked it off yet. So we will see what the NHL's next steps are going to be and what the true scope of the problem is going to be once everyone's actually in the facilities.
Yeah, again, I think the FC Dallas thing was super noteworthy because it happened in the bubble.
Yes.
That is concerning for all leagues. And I don't know how you solve that problem. The women's soccer league had a similar issue and they kicked out the Orlando team. Now it's in the women's soccer league, so some of our listeners may not have heard about it, but um, I don't know if you could do that in the NBA. Just, oh shit, the Spurs had 6 positive tests. Bye, Spurs.
I don't know. I don't think you can. I really don't think the reaction to that would be good both inside and outside of the league. I don't think that teams inside of the league would allow for a team to just get kicked out. I think the season would have to go back on pause or get canceled, honestly.
Or me and you will have to fly to Orlando and suit up for the San Antonio Spurs. One of
Like
those three.
like Bill Murray in Space Jam. Ba 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 ba.
I hope you come out there in a backwards hat.
Always. I mean, have you seen our
Always.
logo? We're both always wearing a backwards hat. Also, just like Bill Murray, I don't
Just
play
like
defense.
okay. Defense. Listen to this guy.
I don't play defense. Some slightly other news in the NHL. There has been some news about Ilya Sorokin and the New York Islanders. We've mentioned this guy's name a few times, a goaltender coming out of Russia. With the coronavirus, there were some thoughts that maybe, just maybe, he would be joining the squad for the expanded playoffs, but that does not seem to be the case. The NHL has ended up tweaking their rules on signed draft picks that they cannot come in mid-season, and instead, it looks like Sorokin will join the team at the beginning of 2020-2021 season.
Well, such is the way the Islanders go about
Operate.
life. Yeah, it's just never easy for the Islanders. Split time between two arenas, can't get your goalie over, lose your best player to the Maple Leafs. Like, just a whole mess of situations for the Islanders. But he will come over in 2020, 2021. So he will be here eventually, Islander fans. And uh, I imagine he'll be pretty good when he comes. A lot of people think he's the best goalie outside of the NHL right now. So always good to add a good goalie to your roster.
And speaking of the Islanders, we spoke earlier about Bobby Bonilla and bad contracts and how Mets aren't the only team to ever do that. The New York Islanders, Rick DiPietro, their goalie, he signed a 15-year deal that was worth $4.5 million back in 2006. So technically, they're still paying for that, but $4.5 million compared to what the NHL was then and now, that's not as terrible of a deal, I would say. And even Bobby Bonilla is making more than that, honestly.
I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, another team, of course, another blue and orange Long Island, New York team, paying athletes who are retired. It's a great trend.